Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Josh Bondi, the Director of Research at the Nevada Science Center. Our Director of Education, Becky's behind the camera today. We are at a special field trip ourselves across the border to southern Utah. So for those of you who are tuning in from not the US, you're from across the pond, Utah is 2 states over from California, so 1 state east from Nevada, where we're typically broadcasting from. And we have a special guest here today at our special location, Curator of the Dinosaur Discovery Site, Andrew Milner here. So thank you for having us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about where we're at and what the significance of this place?
Okay, so we're at the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site. The locality was discovered in February 2000, and the public kind of found out about the site in early March. And the museum opened in October of 2005. And we've been, anyway, lots of excavations going on here at the site. You can see behind me the in-place track site where we've mapped over 3,000 footprints.
3,000 tracks of one type of dinosaur, or?
No, lots of different kinds. So animals like Dilophosaurus size animals, Dilophosaurus, Anemethus tracks made by small plant-eating dinosaurs, and little crocodile relatives.
Oh, cool.
So this site's around 200 million years old from the earliest Jurassic.
200 million years old? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we have rocks of the same age in Nevada, but we haven't found quite as nice of fossils as you have found here at your site.
Yeah, maybe it'll happen.
It'll happen in the future?
Maybe. I'm not too sure.
Very nice.
So, yeah, so similar age rocks. So, for example, in the Valley of Fire, you guys have rocks that are probably equivalent in age to the Monavi Formation here in southwestern Utah. And so lots of the tracks that we have here, there's a footprint type called Eubrontes that are made by kind of medium-sized theropod dinosaurs, so animals between 20 to 25 foot long.
Oh, wow.
And small plant-eating dinosaurs, very much like the dinosaurs Coprolites, is a possibility, something like that. So the footprints that we have here of Anemethus, the Anemethus tracks, were suggestive for the longest time to be the oldest record of Anemethus anywhere in the world. But recently we found a site slightly older nearby with even older Anemethus.
So what would some of the animals look like that we're making these tracks? Is there anything here right around us that we can point out?
Yeah, so you could probably, on the painting right here, you can kind of see this guy here, the Dilophosaurus.
That's the big one.
The big guy running, chasing a small plant-eating dinosaur. So the big guy would produce footprints called Eubrontes. The smaller guy would produce the Anemethus tracks. And then we also have small meat-eating dinosaurs, very similar to Dilophosaurus. So if you look over here, there's a model of Dilophosaurus. That's sort of what he may have looked like. Who knows? It may have been covered in feathers, which we don't know. Anyway, we used the Dilophosaurus as kind of a model to show as a possible producer of early Jurassic Eubrontes producers. The only thing is, this site, we have a brand new type of theropod, a vertebrae that was recently described, and it's probably something new.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we're hoping to continue excavating the bone bed. We have a bone bed with lots of fishes and things like that as well. So.
Awesome. So what about this particular site? Like, why is the museum built here?
Well, it's built directly over the in-place track site.
So these tracks, the dinosaurs walk right where we're standing.
Right where we're standing, yeah. And then the property just to the north across the road, we're hoping that eventually we can develop that. We're hoping to create a full natural history museum here in southwestern Utah.
That's exciting.
So that way fossils that are found in the region are not shipped off to other museums, and they'll remain here right in the area, so we can educate the public about the paleontology and geology here.
So why don't we take a look at how we find fossils in the field, how we document them, and then how they would come back to either this museum here in St. George or other places in the region.
So we're at a track site right along the edge of the road on Smith's Mesa Road, and we're in the lowermost part of the Curator Formation. We're sitting right on top of the beds directly above the Springdale sandstone.
What did you find?
I didn't find them, somebody else did, but you can see these large theropod tracks. They're kind of widely splayed. They kind of resemble the track type Paleontologist. They're also quite large. So what do we say, like 40 centimeters long, some of these? And you can see this is a left footprint to a right. There's a trackway that continues all the way along the surface. And you can see the toes are pretty splayed out, kind of resembling Chianthropus, but this footprint over here, this one's a bit different. This is more like Ubrontes. This is another left footprint. Here's the outside toe, the middle toe, the claw, the inside toe, the back of the foot. And you can see the toes are a little bit, the angle between the digits are a little narrower. So this resembles more of the track type called Ubrontes. So probably an animal walking on a firmer surface, whereas these other footprints are sinking in slightly deeper to form partially penetrative footprints into the sediment. Whereas this is kind of more the actual track surface, potentially. Also, all these circular marks, and kind of like these tunnels, are probably an invertebrate trace called Scylithos. So very wet area, definitely submerged at times.
Can I get you pointing to one of these burrows and just explaining what was happening there? Who was doing that?
Possibly arthropods or bivalves form these types of structures. They're kind of U-shaped on the bottom of a lot of these burrows, and some of these are probably other kinds of trails. They're just not well enough preserved to identify. But these are definitely invertebrate traces, probably Scylithos, especially when you see these circular marks all over the surface. Okay.
All right, so welcome back. So we were just out on the museum floor where the public gets to see all the cool fossils that, again, where dinosaurs have stepped in the mud right where they've been standing as a guest at walking through the museum. But a lot goes into once you find those fossils like we were just showing in the video versus when you finally see them in, say, a natural history museum or someplace else. So what we've done is we've stepped behind the scenes here at the Dinosaur Discovery Site into the Paleontology Preparation Lab. So this is where a lot of the detailed work gets done and where people like Andrew and the volunteers here, the diligent volunteers here at the museum, work to extract the fossils from the rock. So Andrew, you want to show us through a couple of your projects that you're working on here?
Okay, yeah. So because our site is earliest Jurassic, we've gained a lot of interest in the late Triassic, because, you know, understanding the animals before this mass extinction at the end of the Triassic and what goes on afterwards. So anyway, here you can see all of these numbers that they represent individual bones. There's around 350 bones in this jacket. This particular specimen is collected from a bone bed in south central Utah. And you can see there's limb bones. Here's an actual limb bone that was prepared out completely. This is a femur from an animal called a phytosaur.
Femur's a thigh bone.
Yeah, thigh bone. Yeah. And here you can see all the backbones right here, all the way along here. They come all the way through. And all these flat bones all over the place. These are, so these animals look like crocodiles and alligators. They're covered in bony armor.
So how old is this one, Andrew?
How old is this one? This is around 215 million approximately. And it's being described, the skull and the neck are currently being described by a couple of paleontologists. Bill Parker from Petrified Forest National Park is one of them. And they're working on describing the skull. And it's a kind of a unique kind of phytosaur, probably in these species.
Well, what would a skull from one of these things look like?
Well, we have an example of one over here, although this is slightly different from this animal. So you're looking here at the underside of the skull. You can see the palate right here, the back of the skull. We do have all these pieces. So right here, you can kind of see a cross section through the brain, and then the occipital condyle that fastens onto the first neck vertebra is right about here. And then here you can see this bone. This is the very end of the snout, called the rostrum. And you can see all the tooth sockets. So this would fit right on here. And you can see some of the teeth are still in place in this particular skull.
Now, this animal's not a dinosaur, right?
No, it's not. So this is kind of what they sort of look like. So some of the main differences: crocodiles, alligators, caiman, gharial all have their nostrils at the end of the snout. Phytosaurs have their nostrils located on top of the head in front of the eyes.
So it kind of would have looked like a crocodile, but it wasn't actually a real crocodile.
That's right.
Okay. Was this the only type of bones that we find around here?
No, we have this beautiful fish fossil. This was collected at our bone bed near the site, so associated with dinosaur material. This is the fish called the Semionotus. And here you can see the skull. So here's the gills, the eye socket. It's kind of squished to the side. Here are the pectoral fins, so the front fins. There's the dorsal fin on the back. And these are the pelvic fins at the back here. And then the tail is kind of folded over. So this is the tail of the fish.
So what are those scales made out of?
They're called ganoid scales. They're coated with enamel. So like a modern garfish, they're basically chainmail fish. And we see a lot of the dinosaur teeth found associated with these teeth, and they have a lot of wear on where the serrations of the tip of the tooth. So there's a lot of wear on these teeth.
So in Valley of Fire State Park, rocks that are about 100 million years after this, we find coprolites that have these little scales, these little enamel covered scales in them.
Yeah.
So can you imagine that probably wasn't too pleasant, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want to explain to the kids what a coprolite is? I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right. So a coprolite is basically fossil food. So coprolite, fossil feces, and often coprolites are pretty informative, so they can give you an idea of the diets of certain kinds of animals. So, for example, lots of phytosaurs and other fishes will eat fish. So you'll find lots of fish debris mixed in the coprolites.
Right. So we know that the other animals were eating these fish.
Absolutely.
Despite their shape.
Yeah. Let's look at the first couple more phytosaur skulls. These ones are a little bit younger. That last skull I showed you was around 210 million. These are around 205. This is a phytosaurus called Macroprostropheus. This is a skull that we collected in 2009 in southeastern Utah. And this is our 2013 skull, which is much better. And you can see, like I was mentioning, the nostrils located on the top of the head on these two specimens. You can see the eyes are kind of located kind of up, so they would kind of keep just the top of their head sticking out of the water. And they constantly replace their teeth throughout life. So we find lots and lots of isolated teeth at these particular areas. So these are from rocks called the Chinle Formation, which are really dominant in the American Southwest.
So driving into St. George from Las Vegas this morning, we noticed there's lots of desert landscape. There's lots of creosote bush. There's really not a lot of trees. Maybe some Joshua trees are, the only tall foliage around here. And the only water is from the Virgin River coming through town. What would it have looked like here in southern Utah when these things were alive?
So it would have been very flat lying. The mountains were here, so we're very close to sea level. So it was a low lying, very broad basin, hundreds of miles wide, with river systems flowing from the southeast towards the northwest. Very forested, particularly along the rivers, and extremely forested if you go to the older parts of the Chinle. So it was very vegetated. Whereas as these particular phytosaurs, as you move up to the Chinle Formation and move into the younger part of it, vegetation tends to hang along the rivers, and it's becoming more and more arid as we move into a period of time where you have the influx of what's called the Wingate sandstone, which is a large sandstone.
Okay. So we have different environments kind of through time. These things were living in the water, right? So that's why the nose and the eyes are above at the top of their head, because these things will cruise around like crocodiles.
Right. So we often find, in terms of tracks, we find swim tracks of phytosaurs. So basically kick marks when their feet on the muddy bottom. And we also find very rare, there's a footprint type called Apatophis, and they're suggested to have been produced by phytosaurs.
Okay. What else do we have in here that we're working on?
Well, there's lots of side projects. There's, there's too many projects to do, and it's hard to say no sometimes. So this particular track is a sauropod footprint, so one of the big long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs. But this is quite rare. You can see all these kind of hexagonal shapes all along the side of the foot and these parallel scratch lines. So these are the scales preserved on the outside of the track.
It's a dinosaur fingerprint.
Yeah, pretty much. And you can see the replica next to it is a replica of a hand of Tyrannosaurus. So something very similar to this would have produced this type of track. This is from a track site close to Green River, Utah. And this is a collaborative project with Dr. Jim Kirkland working in the Cedar Mountain Formation. So rocks are about 115, 120 million years old.
All right, so that's kind of similar in age to rocks and fossils that we're working on in southern Nevada and central Nevada.
Yeah.
So these types of track makers may have been, dinosaurs don't care where state boundaries are
Yeah, exactly.
100 million years after the fact. So these things are probably walking around Nevada too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we do have some
So
things.
we're doing some echoes. Maybe it's just the type of where we're standing. So maybe just walk that way a little
So
bit.
we have some maybe sauropod tracks in Valley of Fire that we're still working on describing. But that's really cool though, that these things were around, right. Stomping around Utah, they got to be stomping around Nevada too.
Yeah, exactly. And skin impressions on tracks are actually quite rare.
Right. So yeah, just think about what it would take to preserve your fingerprint in a sandstone, or if you stick your finger in a sand dune, what it would take to preserve that for hundreds of millions of years. Right. So what is this here? This is a big panel that you got here. What are these bones?
Those last two phytosaur skulls I showed you. So we're kind of interested in the fishes in the late Triassic as well. This is a slab with approximately 27 fish on it. Some of them are the fish type called coelacanths. So you can see there's a couple of coelacanths here, another one here. And then all of these other ones are called red fieldids. And there's several beautiful specimens of red fieldids. This one here is a fish called Lophionotus sanjuanensis. And this was described by one of our former interns here at the Museum of Fiction.
Okay.
So it's very likely that it's very closely related to that other fish from Isabel. We're trying to make ties across the Triassic, Jurassic.
Very cool. So the Triassic boundary, those are the first two time periods of the age of dinosaurs, or the Mesozoic, and the last will be in the Cretaceous. Anything else you want to say about what we're working on in here, or do you want to open it up for questions?
Maybe questions. Yeah.
Ralph, I think we're ready for questions whenever you are.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, so we have a question from one of our students here in Nevada, and they want to know, what is the difference between the dinosaurs found in Nevada versus the dinosaurs found in Utah?
So I guess I'll take that one.
Yeah,
So the dinosaurs that we're finding in Nevada, we actually compared to the dinosaurs found in Utah because they've been worked on for so much longer. There's a lot more rocks of the same age that we have in Nevada. So what we're finding is, and it shouldn't be too surprising, just like when you go to the modern mountain ranges of Utah and the modern mountain ranges of Nevada, you find elk, you find mule deer, you find bighorn sheep and coyotes and mountain lions. Similarly, when we look 100 million years ago, the dinosaurs that we find in Nevada are also not that dissimilar from the dinosaurs that are found in Utah. So it's really similar, as a matter of fact, because geographically, we're in the same place.
Absolutely. One of the kids wanted to know, do you guys ever find any velociraptors in the Utah area?
There are footprints of dromaeosaurs known from the Cedar Mountain Formation, as well
That's
as
a family of like the Velociraptor belongs.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I always seem to get too technical. There's also a famous dinosaur, which is now Utah's state dinosaur, called Utahraptor, and that's very closely related to Velociraptor. So remember the dinosaurs that you see in the movie Jurassic Park, they call Velociraptor? They're actually 4 times too big. So the critters you see in Jurassic Park are actually around the same size as Utahraptor.
Right. So yeah, again, that's brand new. Like Utah just got a state dinosaur, and again, yeah, Utahraptor. Think Jurassic Park movies. Utahraptor, Velociraptor in the movie. So.
And the kids want to know, what is each of your favorite dinosaurs that you have ever found?
Go ahead.
I'd have to say Dilophosaurus is one of my favorites, probably because I study lots of early Jurassic tracks. But I'm kind of partial to an iguanodon dinosaur. This is the guy with the thumb spikes, also from the Cedar Mountain Formation. I discovered the site. It's called Hippodracosquididens. One of my favorites.
Oh, you found that site?
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. My favorite is, and I have to have a Nevada bias since it's the Nevada Science Center, and it only comes from 2 little teeth about yay big, about a centimeter at the most, and they're the teeth of ancestors of Tyrannosaurs. And so we had little baby, we weren't babies, but they were little Tyrannosaurs before they got great big, 100 million years ago, about the size of Utahraptor. And we're cruising along the waterways of southern Nevada, probably southern. I think they've been found here in Utah as well in the Cedar Mountain Formation. Yeah. So yeah, Tyrannosaurs, why not?
Miss Cardenas' class, I believe they're somewhere here in Nevada, possibly northern Nevada. They wanted to know, how big are the foot imprints that you guys were showing us?
So yeah,
Like these ones?
So yeah, so we have some really small ones. A track type called Coprolites. That are made by little coelophysid dinosaurs. Yeah, it's weird. We don't have the so we've got a little tiny track with all the toe pads and a little three-toed footprint from a small meat-eating dinosaur that can actually hide underneath the dime. Some of our largest footprints are about 35 to 36 centimeters long, so they're probably about that big.
The one
But
from the
we-
videos were 40 centimeters. Remember from the field?
Well, I was just going to bring that
Yeah.
up. Yeah, and we've got another site nearby where some of these are 40 centimeters long. So there's probably larger ones around too. Some of the largest track type called Euprontes are actually found in southern Africa, and they're over 50 centimeters long.
Oh,
Some of
wow.
these tracks. So if you
So these are what we would call primitive meat-eating dinosaurs that were probably on the scale of almost tyrannosaurs, like full-blown Cretaceous
yeah,
tyrannosaurs.
they're getting big. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Allosaurus size.
Right.
Yeah.
Miss Pakula's class, they just read a book about Mary Anning, and they wanted to know, have you guys ever been to Berlin, Nevada? And did you guys ever find any ichthyosaur bones?
I personally, yes, I've been to Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park in the central part of Nevada a number of times, also kind of about the same age as the stuff that we're talking about here in Utah. The ichthyosaurs are actually still in the ground, so you can go camping and then you can walk over to the fossil house and you can still see the bones in the ground. And they're huge. I mean, the backbones on these things are like this big. The skulls of these things would be almost as long as one of these tables. But yeah, it's a really impressive place.
And that one's built the same way.
Yeah, this is kind of a similar situation where this is a museum built on top of where the fossils are actually found, just like at Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park.
Yeah.
Have you been up there, Andrew?
I haven't been to Burley Ichthyosaur State Park, but I did visit Lyme Regis when I was a little kid.
Where Mary Anning?
Yeah, exactly. So the same area. I've never looked for ichthyosaurs, but we do have a rock formation here called the Carmel Formation, which is Middle Jurassic. And we are finding teeth of plesiosaurs, so other types of marine reptiles. So there's a possibility of finding ichthyosaur relatives in the Middle Jurassic here and stuff. But
Well, as a good Nevada class, they're asking about a Nevada state fossil. So
yeah, awesome.
It sounds like a great Nevada class. So the kids wanted to know, could you tell us, this from Miss Lucera's class, they wanted to know, do you guys have any idea of how long a dinosaur's lifespan was from birth to death?
it probably varied. So keeping in mind that dinosaurs are really closely related to birds. Some of the growth curves, some of the great big long-necked sauropod dinosaurs like the track that we just showed, some paleontologists hypothesize they lived over 100 years long. Whereas if you think of maybe the smaller meat-eating dinosaurs, their hearts would have been beating a lot faster metabolism, probably only lived a couple of years, right? Would you agree?
There's been a lot of studies done on T-Rex. And
Right.
so, you know, they're figuring what, 40 years?
40 years, yeah.
Around 40 years old.
Oh, that's really interesting. And if anyone wants to learn more about the Nevada Science Center and any of the great stuff that they're up to, go ahead and check them out in the chat, their link. We have a number of teachers that want to know, what advice do you guys have for kids who are aspiring paleontologists? What are some of the things that they should study in elementary school and in middle school and high school?
Why don't you go first and then I'll chime in.
So you're looking at rocks. So definitely geology is an important topic. And you're looking at animals too, and plants. So you definitely need to, well, we just had somebody wipe that outside in front of the lab, sorry. Biology is extremely important. So definitely pay attention to all of your sciences. And, you know, when you get into university, definitely do both geology and biology. Very important topic.
I would agree with everything Andrew said. And if you are just a dinosaur nut or you're really passionate about something, what I always say is read. So get a hold of as many books as you can get. Have your parents go get you a library card or use their library card. And all of you now have the internet at your disposal, something that we didn't have when we were kids.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to be out there reading as much as you can. And when you get old enough, and say you live in southern Utah or you live in southern Nevada, volunteer at a museum, volunteer at a place like this, go volunteer at maybe your local science center, We always have, Andrew just mentioned earlier, there's projects and projects and projects.
And there's volunteers in here today.
And there's volunteers actually in here today,
Yeah.
working
Yeah,
away.
I'll just
And
do a quick-
this
yeah.
work doesn't get done just by the two of us. We need help, and you know.
Do you wanna do a wave?
volunteers get this
Wave?
done.
Yeah, Fred and Linda cut that white dinosaur skeleton. We're good workers.
Well, before we let everyone go, I should also mention that we have a lot of edutainment guest speakers coming in, so I also put the link in there. So before the kids go, they wanted to know how big was a T-Rex? This is a question that keeps coming in through the chat from a number of classes.
So Tyrannosaurus Rex, the biggest samples that they have so far, and mind you, there's never been 100% one found, or maybe the biggest one ever, but the biggest one that we have is about 45 feet long from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, and it would have stood about 20 feet tall at the hips. So that is an enormous animal, and taking into consideration that their tracks have also been found in places, and I know everybody loves Tyrannosaurus Rex, but just keep in mind, we're rewinding the clock almost 100 million years here to look at these rocks, and these meat eaters are almost as big as Tyrannosaurus Rex. So the age of dinosaurs is truly, maybe you don't want to get in that time machine and go back and hang around.
Yeah, they sound like they're not too pleasant. So a few of the people, I would be remiss if we did not bring this up, but a few of especially the Nevada classes know because they've seen the news. Can you tell them about the new Nevada dinosaur?
Oh yes, our little Nevada dromius. So that would have probably been a snack for a Tyrannosaur or for any of the dinosaurs that we're talking about today. So a little plant eater about as high as my hip. The thigh bones on it are about only yay long. So even though it's a little cute thing, the sheep of the Cretaceous, we call it now, probably would have spent most of its life running. That's actually what its name means, is Nevada runner. Try not to be eaten by everything else. So
October 13th and 14th, we're doing a virtual project.
and October 13th and 14th for National Fossil Day, we're actually going to be highlighting Nevada dromia. So if you want to tune in for one of those presentations, we'll show off the bones again, and you can get a closer look at Nevada's first dinosaur.